Dice Tower Tonight, episode 93.
Gripe or hype?
Welcome to Dice Tower Tonight, a video cast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On tonight's show, all aboard the hype train. We try to dismantle the hype machine to figure out how it works. And we confess sometimes that hype has burned us in the past. Also, Crystal has a game from me in the chat to play. We run through some titles we played lately, and we answer questions from the audience live. I'm Eric Summerer, and joining me now, the merry heart to my John Tesh, it's Crystal Dax.
Oh, I know I'm gonna regret asking because I should know, but I don't know this one.
It's an old school reference for Entertainment Tonight. Mary Hart and John Tesh were
Oh,
anchors of Entertainment Tonight some time ago.
okay. The names sounded vaguely familiar. Like I was like, I've heard them before, but yeah, I don't think I would have pulled that one out of my brain. That's a good one though.
So how's it going? We were discussing before we started how our days were going, and I mentioned that I was a little flustered, a little off kilter today. So forgive me if I stare off into space or something, and whatever. No. So we've been on vacation this week. My kids have been on spring break, and so I planned to take the week off, and I haven't been doing any recording this week, and have been doing stuff around the house and playing games with them. We did a game day together with them, but today we basically spent the day outside. We rode our bikes around, and Steph took the day off as well, and so we've had this sort of a weird. It feels like a weekend day. But it isn't, and it's just been a little hard getting back into the, oh yes, it's Wednesday mode. How's your day gone, Crystal?
I think Wednesday is actually the opposite of a weekend because it's smack dab in the middle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great day to
Um,
take a day off if you're going to do it that way.
That's true. Because then you only have two-day weeks on the other
Yeah,
side of it, so that's not bad. My day has been fine, mostly uneventful, which for a Wednesday I will take.
sure. That is a good way to go. We
And
should
I'm
we should
talk
probably
about some
talk about
games.
we should talk about some games. That's let's get on track and
Well,
talk
Eric,
about
I
some
would
games.
love to hear yours first.
So one of the reasons why I'm a little off kilter is that I did not plan to talk about this game today. I had something else to talk about, Santorini, New York, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I was going to show it off, but that's not what I'm going to talk about because this afternoon I received a package from Japan.
Ooh, did you get your Oink games?
No, these are not Oink
Different.
games. This is from a small design studio called Sashi and Sashi.
No, Eric, I'm gonna leave. I'm so angry right now.
And they sent the new version of Take the A Chord, which was
Okay, no, that's not what I was
it
thinking.
was a lovely little card game. This is like a deluxe edition that has some new components and some cool tokens. There's like a really solid first player marker and really solid. I have not had a chance to play it yet, but it looks good.
Ugh,
But
it's
but what I'm going to
coming.
talk about is this.
No, Eric.
It's the Let's Make a Bus Route dice game.
I'm
Um,
so desperate to get my hands on this game. They said on their website that they're gonna have international shipping, and I need it.
yes. So this is and oh, I forgot to bring it down. I was going to show the big edition of the game. This is the dice version of Let's Make a Bus Route, which came out 2 years ago or so, which has been well regarded as a flip and write game that has some very unique mechanisms where everybody is collaboratively building bus routes on one map. And the box is maybe like this big. I'm trying to get scale here. This is a good bit smaller. Here's me for scale. Nice little square box. This is a 1 to 2 player game that uses similar mechanisms to Let's Make a Bus Route, but instead of being a flip and write, it is actually a roll and write game. You are, again, collaboratively building a map. This is... Now, the reason why I'm flustered is that I was playing a solo game before we could talk about it, and I was rushing. I finished like half an hour before we went live. So you are collaboratively building a map, just like in the Big Brother version of the game. But you are using these dice. Each of these dice have, symbols on them. There are 6 white dice, and there's a single black die that looks like that. And the lid of the box has felt on the bottom, so it's its own little dice tray, which is an awesome little touch.
Their production values are always so good.
It's really solid. So, you have this nice quiet. I'm rolling dice here in the box, and you don't hear anything. So, on your turn, let's talk about the 2-player version. So, if Crystal and I are playing, I'm, say, the start player. I roll 6 dice, and I will choose 3 of those dice and cross off little symbols. Much like the Big Brother, you've got sightseers, you've got commuters, you've got students, and you've got parents and children. You also have old people, the elderly. And so if on my turn, when I'm the start player, I will choose 3 of those symbols and cross off the circles on the board. I'm not building a route when I'm the start player. And then of the dice that are left, Crystal gets to choose one of those dice, and those correspond to the route patterns that you would be getting in the Big Brother. So she chooses one of these and then draws her bus route on the shared board, tagging different locations around the board. So like the sightseers, you sort of check them off, but they don't score until you tag one of the sightseeing locations. And then all of the ones you've cleared in that row will score points. And the more you have in the row, the more points it'll be worth. Same with the commuters. They don't score until you hit a train station. So you're sort of charging up when you are the start player, the icons on your board, and then you will score them when you tag locations around the board. The parents and children, you will circle spots when you tag them on the map, and then you will cross them off when you roll them on the dice. So it's sort of backwards. You have to sort of prime them and then tag them. The elderly people just score straight up points by crossing them off on the board. There's also special abilities here that you can charge up by spending symbols, and then it will give you superpowers like rolling that black die as an additional die, re-rolling your dice, getting to choose whatever symbol you want. So by charging those up, you then get a certain number of activations. There's also negative points for running into traffic, much like you do in the Big Brother. If you share a route with the other player, you'll run into traffic congestion. There's also sections of the board that are red. It's hard to see here. You can sort of see them. There are red connections that are automatically congested. The city is busy, and if you use those routes, that's going to be congestion to begin with. And then you, after 12 rounds, total up who gets the most points after all of that. The solo game, you simply flip over the board, and you basically play the game twice in the solo game. You play once with the blue markers, you play again with the red markers, but you leave the blue markers, the blue route on the map. So now you have to maneuver around the blue route and still try and score points and avoid traffic with this blue route that's out on the board already. You can also reuse some of the abilities that you've primed. If you prime them on the blue turn, you can use them again in the red turn. But if you didn't complete all the symbols, then you don't get it for the red turn. And then you total up your scores and see how well you do. So this is the frenzy that I was having before the show today. It's a neat little twist on a solo game where you see sort of the remnant of a earlier version of a play. But it does mean that while it says it's a 30-minute game on the side of the box, the solo version is basically twice that because you're playing twice.
Okay.
There's a couple of other small differences in how many dice you roll and how you activate some of those special abilities, but that's basically it. Very early impressions because this literally arrived this afternoon. And I'm looking forward to playing this as a 2-player competitive head-to-head sort of thing. But that is the limit. There are no more players other than than 2 for this edition of the game. But so far, Let's Make a Bus Route the Dice game is solid and nice production. They give you 2 sets of markers with the little erasers on them. So once we can figure out how international shipping works, I think it is worth exploring. And Crystal, I owe you a game. As soon as we're together and can play this, I will play this with you.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been kind of like mildly stalking Sashi and Sashi's website because notoriously in the past they have not shipped internationally. Like their website does sell their games, but only to Japan. And I, out of some misguided sense of optimism, went to their site again recently and scrolled all the way down on the new Let's Make a Bus Route Dice game page, and it says very specifically that they are launching a new website in mid-April and that they will have international shipping for their games. So this is not like a verified fact from me. That's what it says on their website. So I'm trusting it, and I keep checking. I'm like, it's kind of almost mid-April now.
I remember seeing some tweet along the way that like they partnered with an international shipping company and they're trying to do that. But I don't have those details. I just know that this just arrived, so they should be gearing up if they are going to be internationally shipping things. They, in fact, wanted to know when my package arrived so that they knew how long it took for this shipping partner to... so I owe them an email when the show is done. Anyway.
I mean, for any of our viewers who are not familiar with Sashi and Sashi's games, like Let's Make a Bus Route is great. And Remember Our Trip, which just came out in 2019, I want to say, is also really fun and really good. And their games just feel different from other companies' games. Like every game I've played of theirs has felt unique in some way. And so that's why I really like them.
There's a real charm to the way they produce things. And it's really, they even put a little note in the package. Dear Eric, I hope you enjoy these games, Sashi.
That's so cute.
It's adorable. I love it. So yes, all of their stuff is well worth a look, but this one is another hit, I think, and especially for fans of Let's Make a Bus Route that are looking for a solo or a 2-player experience. Here you go.
Awesome. Well, while I am very mad and jealous, I'm also very happy to hear your thoughts on the game because I'm really excited about that one. That, for me, I have a lot of hype about that game, which will feed into our conversation for later.
I also thought it was appropriate to bring it up today, yes.
Well, interestingly enough, I picked something on the other side of the spectrum, a game that I think flew fully under the radar for almost everybody. And because now again, this is just coming from my personal opinion. Who knows, maybe a lot of people were talking about it and I just missed it. But the game that I'm talking about today is QueenZ, which I have heard almost nothing about from anyone. And guess who it's designed by? I think y'all might recognize that name.
Bruno Catala.
Yeah, like this is not, and it's Rio Grande. Like, why would people not be talking about this? Well, I don't know, because it's amazing. Spoiler alert. I love this game so much. First off, the artwork in this game is beautiful. Like, it's Vincent Dutrait. Look, there's a signed Vincent Dutrait piece of art on the inside of the box lid. Like, you see his name down there? Yeah. Vincent Dutrait. Look at this. Look at how pretty this is. This is a game about making honey from orchid flowers. And orchids are my favorite flower, so that was already like check for me as a good thing. So in this game, players are going to be collecting orchids to then make honey of different colors. And the honey relates to the colors of the flowers that it comes from. There is a board which will be completely filled with orchid tiles, which I will grab a few of out of the box here. So there's these, whoop, I'm not bending anything in half, I swear, orchid tiles. And this board is going to be completely filled with those on these spots that you see here that I'm trying to do backwards and it's not working very well. Also, these orchid tiles are like the thickest cardboard ever. Like when I was punching these out, I was like, dang, these are some hefty tiles. Like they're small, but real thick, which is nice.
Survive Escape from Atlantis level of
thickness. Like they feel real good. Like nice and thick. So yeah, the board is going to be completely filled with orchids, and then there's going to be a gardener pawn, which I will grab, who is going to walk around the outside of the board. And when it's your turn, you can take orchids only from the row that he is next to. So if he was on this end row, this is the row of orchids that you can take from. And you can take a different number of orchids depending on what orchids you take. Some of the orchids have bees on them. If you take an orchid with a bee, you can only take one, not anymore. But if you take orchids of different colors with no bees on them, you can take up to 3 on your turn. Then the gardener will move based on how many orchids you took, 1, 2, or 3 spaces, and you will place those orchids onto your garden. And you're going to be building your garden out of these polyomino tiles. So your garden is going to end up looking like this sprawling mess. It's not going to be this neat little box. It's like you're fitting these little pieces together and you're blooming. You don't get them all at the start of the game. You're picking these up throughout the course of the game. So you just start with one of them, and then you're going to be adding to it as you go. You're trying to place your orchids in groupings by color and also place beehives onto your tiles where there are orchids around them that will produce honey. So you're trying to make honey of different colors, so you want to differentiate the types of orchids you're picking up, and those bees are really important to helping you do that. And there's also these little like different colored honey pots in the components that are super great as well. All of the different colors of flowers have their own little colored honey pots. This is one of those games that like when you play it, you're just like, yes, this makes sense. Everything fits, it works. If you like tile laying, pattern building, set collection style games. I mean, it feels very Bruno Catala, right? Like it kind of very much has some elements of other games that he's designed. But it's so fun. Like it's simple, and then y'all heard me I say over and over and over again, that's the type of game that I tend to really love. The ones that are pretty easy to learn, but have an interesting strategic depth to them. And this game definitely does that. The insert in the box is also really nice. All of the orchid tiles have these little trays that they sit into, and everything else sits in here real nice as well. I do like a good insert. Everything is easy to organize in the box. It's super fun, and I have no idea. I don't know if it's because it came out maybe late 2019, and maybe it just kind of got lost amidst the pandemic. Like I don't know when it released in 2019, but I don't remember seeing much about it ever from anybody. Z has to have reviewed this. If Z didn't, I mean, Z loves Bruno, so like, right. I should look. I imagine Z has reviewed this, and I would not be surprised if he really liked it. But I haven't heard about it from anybody else, so I definitely wanted to put it on people's radars. Because, yeah, QueenZ, and that's QueenZ with a Z at the end, is so fun. I really, really like this one.
Huh. Very cool. Well, maybe you can get some hype going for it and have a second life.
I like being able to do that. I'm not usually the one that's starting up the hype machine, but in this case, I think it would be warranted because this is a super fun game.
Very cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. All right, Eric. Well, it is time for us to play a game with the chat. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea. Good idea.
Okay, cool. I'm going to find a place to put this box behind me.
Coralu says, yes, Z did review QueenZ.
Oh, nice. Well, did he like it? Was I correct? Somebody scroll through to the end of his review.
Just zip to the end.
Yeah, just skip all the...
They can't. They're watching us. Talk. Don't pause us. Do it later.
Oh, no, that's a good point, Coralu. Thinks the reviews came out too far in advance before it was available and forgot to follow up on it. That actually might feed into our discussion for later. That hype machine, depending on the timing of it, can matter. So, yes. All right. Well, thank you all for looking that up for me. I assumed so. Like, it's how could Z not review a Bruno Catala game, right?
Sure.
Like,
I think he just has a radar. He's got a Google alert that anytime Bruno Catala comes out with something. Oh, yes.
Yep. Interested.
Pre-order.
All right, Eric. We are going to play Letter Jam with the chat tonight.
Okay. I'm excited.
which you and I have done once on the show before, but you were running the game and I was the one making guesses. So we're flipping the script, but chat is going to play a very important role in this because they are going to be the ones giving you words to help you guess your letters. So I am going to transition over to my other screen. Eric, you do not need to hide anything right now, just as a heads up, but you will at some point. So I am moving us over to the game. You'll probably see little doggos in the background walking around at some point.
I wonder if I should probably make you full screen. That might be the best thing to do.
Okay, that's up to you, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, well, otherwise you're going to have to look at my consternation face.
Oh, well, we wouldn't want that. I can still see it in Skype, so it doesn't really matter.
Good, as long as you're entertained.
Of course. So, in Letter Jam, and for those of you who are not familiar with the game, it is a cooperative word game. Hornist. And I did recently play this game on Twitch and spell the word rotten, R-O-T-T-O-N, because when you're in the midst of a word game, sometimes your brain just glitches. So that was a fun moment for me. But we are going to be trying to get Eric to guess a word. I have already chosen that word and have the cards for it. It is a 4-letter word, and we're going to be helping him guess that word 1 letter at a time. So I'm going to show the chat what Eric's letter is. Oh, Corlu says we like seeing Eric's faces. That's funny.
So I will show the chat. Take chat off. Okay.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, just are you able to hide the video or no from the way your setup is?
I can look away. How's that?
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put up your first letter so the chat can see it.
I am looking away. Tell me when I can look. I'm just looking off in the distance.
Well, so chat, you're going to have to commit this to memory because Eric's going to want to look back at some point. So commit Eric's letter to memory. So what you all are going to do is you are going to spell a word using the available letters. And you're going to try and make sure you include Eric's letter, which is this one right here, because this is the letter we're trying to get Eric to guess. So you're going to make a word using all of the letters available. The asterisk is a wild, but note that if you use the asterisk, it sometimes makes it a lot harder for Eric to guess what his letter is. So ideally, you want to spell the longest word you can using these 5 letters and Eric's letter. And I'm going to now take Eric's letter and put it down, or I'll turn it backwards. How about that?
You know, you should use some sort of sound effect when you remove it from the screen.
Wow. So did you hide the chat, Eric? You did, right?
I've hidden the chat. And may I look at the video
cool.
again?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put your letter into the chat as well.
Okay.
So that way people can see it just in case they missed it when the card was up.
Right.
So yeah, you can turn around, Eric. You're good to go.
Okay.
Yep, you're fine. Your letter is no longer visible. But yeah, chat, all you guys have to do is come up with words. And once Eric thinks he knows what this letter is, we'll move on to his next letter. Since it is a 4-letter word, I'm kind of giving us 7 clues to get you there. So you'll be able to get a couple clues for each word potentially. And I guess I'm just going to have to pick from and just remember, chat, when you guys are spelling words, that you want to try and spell words where Eric's letter could not be any other letter in the alphabet. That's the ideal. And it's funny because you'll be like, oh yeah, this is a great word. And then you'll give it to somebody and they'll be like, oh, well, that could be an E or an O or an A. And like they haven't narrowed it down that much. So I'm looking at what we've got in the chat so far. We've got a couple of options. I think that one is spelled wrong, potentially. No, you do not need to create a 4-letter word, Corlu. Eric's word is a 4-letter word that we're trying to get him to guess.
And it's going to be scrambled, if I'm not mistaken. So
yes, it will be scrambled. It will not be in order necessarily. I mean, I guess based on random chance, it could be in order, but I'm not. Yeah, I mixed up the letters. So, All right, well, we've got a couple of words. I don't know if they're going to narrow it down for you enough, but we've got 7 clues, so I will go ahead and give you one of them. So letter number 1 is G. Letter number 2 is your letter. And letter number 3 is M. So G, your letter, M. And just as an FYI to you all chat, there are some letters that are not in the deck, but you can use them to spell other words. So I guess it doesn't really affect what you all are doing too much. Ooh, Tracy, that one would have been perfect. Oh, well, there still would have been, yeah. I really like that one, Tracy.
So,
Jeremiah, that one would have been good as well.
In my mind, I've got 2 possibilities.
Okay.
But I think I'd like to have another word before I move on.
Absolutely. So we're going to get rid of the letters that got used, except for yours, of course, because you're keeping it up for now. And we're going to put up some new letters. All right. So chat, it's up to you again. We need a new word. Again, we want to make sure we are using Eric's letter, which I will put in the chat one more time, just in case anybody missed it. I shoot, they score. It is not.
That was quite the statement.
I would explain, but I can't.
I get it. F-so.
Those letters are not present, Coraloo. I'm not sure.
Well, unless they're using the wild. You can only use the wild for one letter.
Well, you can use it, yes, for one letter, but you can use it multiple times within the word if that letter shows up multiple times. Right.
You just can't change what the asterisk means in the same word.
Gotcha. Yep. Let's see here. That's not bad. Y'all try not to use the asterisk if you can absolutely help it, only because it does make it harder. But I kind of like the one Hornist put in there. I'm going to give it a few more seconds. Ooh. Ooh. Nope, that's also an asterisk.
I like that you're judging the clues. I think I just picked like the 6th one and just threw it out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, maybe this might be better. We'll see if I succeed.
I mean, who knows? You know what? Actually, I think based on, so you think you've narrowed it down some. I'm going to use Coraloo's word here. So we're going to go, letter number 1 is F. Letter number 2 is I. Letter number 3 is S. Letter number 4 is the asterisk. And letter number 5 is yours.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I think that gives me what I need.
Okay. So I'm going to put down your letter. You think you know it. So I'm going to put this one down. And I am going to, here, keep your eyes averted, Eric.
I'm averting.
Okay. Chat, here is Eric's next letter. This is Eric's next letter. Eric's next letter. And I'm going to put it in chat in a second, but I'm going to go ahead and put it away now. Eric, you can turn around. All right, chat. So, and I didn't get rid of, sorry, I need to get rid of some of the letters. We used
the F, the I, and the S.
Yes, yep, those are all gone. Oh my.
E-I-E-I-O.
Okay. Well, we're gonna call an audible here because.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, could they? I'm not even gonna make chat try. I'm sure that they could come up with something, but we're gonna give them the ability to make better words. All right, chat. We need a word for Eric that uses his letter, which is this one over here that I already showed you and put into the chat. And again, try not to use the asterisk if you can help it.
While I'm waiting, I'm going to erase some of my boards.
I actually kind of like that one. A couple people have said that. Okay. All right. A couple people said a word that I think you will be able to nail down. So we're going to go.
Okay.
Letter number 1 is O. Letter number 2 is your letter. Letter number 3 is E. And letter number 4 is O again.
Okay. I don't know what else it could be. So, yeah, I'll lock in letter number 2.
Okay. Awesome job, chat. You all nailed it as usual. So we're going to put letter number 2 down. All right, Eric, avert your eyes.
Oh,
Here we go. Swoop. This is Eric's third letter that I'm showing to the camera right now. Third letter. Third letter. Do. All right. Eric, you can look.
I'm back. Yoked. Except those are the letters.
Hold on. We gotta get rid of the O and the E.
Yoked.
All right. So chat, here are our letters for this round.
I was trying to erase something on the board, but it was a pre-printed X. That wasn't going to work.
All right, let's see here.
Oh,
Ooh, I like that one a lot.
I forgot to mention something about bus route while we're waiting. There's a second board. There's a Mars side to the board.
There's Mars?
There's Mars, and it has teleport locations in the corners. Sort of like it wraps around the planet. Anyway, carry on.
All right, we've got a word for you. A couple people have said this one. I think it's a great one.
All
so here we go. Letter number 1 is A. Letter number 2 is D. Letter number 3 is A. Letter number 4 is your letter. And letter number 5 is T.
Oh, I like that. That's
a good one, yeah.
That is a very good one, and I think I'm ready to lock that one in too. Makes me wonder what this 4-letter word could be.
Well, don't worry, because we've probably already made mistakes in the course of this game that are going to lead you down the wrong path. So you think you know everything, but we screwed up hard at one point that you don't even know about. So
Well,
oh yeah.
Okay.
I think we'll be fine. Don't worry.
I hope so. Oh, I need to
I'm
hide
trying to
again,
make it.
don't I?
Yes, please.
I'm hiding.
All right. This is Eric's last letter. And I'm going to get rid of the words or the letters we used last time. Oh, it doesn't matter which one. All right, you can look, Eric.
Hit my head on the desk.
Oh no!
Fine, everything's fine.
Okay. I'm going to put your letter in the chat. Oh, thank you, Dan. Dan put it in there. And something that I did not tell the chat, but I know that you know, Eric, is at the end of this game, Eric does not have to spell the word that I gave to him. He just has to put the cards in an order that spell a real word. So even if it is a different word than what I intended for him to make, it doesn't matter. So as long as he can order those 4 cards in a way that makes a word, we should be fine. Okay, chat is working on.
I'm hoping. I only
like
have
that
one
one.
possibility
Yeah.
for my 4-letter word.
Okay.
I'm
So,
hoping this clue fixes that or solidifies that.
okay. So your next one, first letter is P. Second letter is your letter. Third letter is G. Fourth letter is E. Oh, dang, Eric, with the 8-letter word that I could have spelled. Holy moly, that would have been amazing. I love it. Eric, I 100% would have done that. Eric Schauf, shout out to you. That is a brilliant word.
I look forward to seeing it later. Yeah, I like one letter. I think I have the letter, but now do I have a 4-letter word?
So I will not say anything, but what letters do you think you have?
I think I have Y, R, P, and A. Oh, I think I got something.
Okay.
So I would say.
Yeah, you just tell me in what order to hold up the cards to the camera. I just one at a time. I will hold them up.
Okay, so I want letter number 3.
Okay. Letter number 3
And
is
then
a P.
letter number 2.
And then letter number 2 is an L, but keep going, keep going, keep going.
Letter number 4.
Letter number 4 is an A. And then letter number 1 is a Y. And guess what, Eric? You spelled a real word, so you win.
I win. I thought it was pray because I thought it was Oreo.
None of us thought of the word Oreo, even though multiple people typed Oleo into the chat. Like, how did none of us think of Oreo? We all were like, oh yeah, Oleo, that's a great clue.
I thought, like, wait a minute, Oleo is a word too, but they wouldn't have used Oleo. No, it's got to be Oreo.
Multiple people, I'm telling you, this was not like a one-off. Multiple people typed Oleo. Oh my goodness. But that's what's neat about this game though, is you don't have to be right. You just have to spell a word at the end. And you did, in fact, spell a word, Eric, which means we win. So chat, you all rocked it. Good job.
But I would have been surprised if I had actually turned it over and went, oh, it still makes a word. It's not the one I thought it was.
Yep. So that is Letter Jam. Congrats, Eric. You did, in fact, win. So did the chat. So
well done,
I'm very
chat.
proud of all of you.
And chat agrees with me. They would have thought Oreo as well.
Oh, 100%. As soon as we moved past it, everybody in the chat was kind of like, uh-oh, like we've made a mistake. There were some pretty harsh comments that popped up that I got rid of. Like there were some mean ones.
Oh no.
It's okay. Just a little bit harsher, I think, than some people intended.
It's all fun and games, by gum.
Steven says my wife called me old for typing Oleo.
Nice. So it is time for us to chat a little bit, and I think we thought that this might be somewhat of an interactive discussion as well, because I think chat's going to have some stories to tell on this topic. But why don't you get us started, Crystal, because this was sort of your idea.
Absolutely. So I am really active on board game Twitter, as it were, which is not, it's not a thing. It's just all the board gamers who happen to hang out on Twitter. And every now and then a conversation comes up complaining about the hype train, the hype around new board games, and the consumerist nature of board games. And I do want to preface this discussion with board games are a luxury. They are a thing that not everybody can afford. And so there are definitely some reasons why pushback against hype is valid. For a lot of hobby gamers, myself included, I think we tend to sometimes hop on the hype train, maybe a little too quickly, just because we're all so excited about this hobby that we love. It's generally, at least for me personally, it's not about trying to get other people to buy a thing. I am so excited that this thing is going to exist or that I can play it. Like earlier when we were talking about Bus Route, the dice game, the original is one of my favorite games. Like truly, I love it so much. And so for me, I'm going to be hyped about that new game for me personally, but I tend to not be like, you should also be hyped about it. I'm just going to yell about my hype. And then if everybody's doing that all at the same time, then if you're sitting on the sidelines, you might be like, what the heck? Why is everybody screaming about this game that hasn't even released yet?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the definition and distinction of hype. There's certainly manufactured hype. That publishers are trying to achieve all the time, and there are various.
I work in marketing for a living, so I get it.
There are certainly techniques to at least set up the situation for a hype situation to happen. But then there's also an authentic hype where, like you said, a lot of people are talking about something, and if you trust enough of those people and their opinions, then suddenly it's like, well, maybe I should pay attention to this. And when that's organic and authentic, then it's great. It's something that you should maybe get excited about, or at least pay attention to, because other people you identify with or agree with their opinions on are saying this is something worth looking at. That's the whole reason why you're watching reviews and listening to people who are playing games. Hype can be a very good thing if it is, again, authentic and not necessarily just everyone publishes a review on the embargo date or something because that was manufactured by the publisher.
Absolutely. And I think that line is an important distinction. And that's not to say that publishers shouldn't try to build hype around their games. That, them selling games is how they stay in business and how they make more games for us as gamers. But yeah, sometimes when everything drops all at once, a little bit too organized, that you lose that genuinity. Is that a word?
Sure.
And yes, it is now. The genuineness of what would be part of the natural hype. And for me, and I imagine a lot of other people who enjoy playing hobby games and enjoy buying hobby games and trying new games, I personally, most of the time, like the hype because it helps me know what to look into. Because truly, at this point, there are thousands of board games coming out every year. And for me, I don't want to have to go and actively seek out the information about all of them. Now, again, we're going to talk about this in a minute too, but sometimes you can get burned by the hype. But for me, I have found generally that I know who to listen to at this point. I'm not just listening to the noise at large. I am listening to specific people or groups of people who I know that I have similar tastes and interests with. And so if they are hyped about a thing, actually, a really good example of this that's not board games is the video game Dwarf Romantic that it seems like everybody in board games is playing right now. A whole bunch of people that I really love and that have similar gaming tastes to me were playing Dwarf Romantic and saying it was great. And so I bought it. I just bought it. And guess what? It is great. It's super fun for me, not necessarily for everyone. And I think that's what that's good for. Like, I don't think I would have ever paid any attention to a game called Dwarf Romantic if I didn't know about it. Like, the name alone doesn't tell you what it is. You have to have some kind of information. And again, I don't want to look into every video game and board game that's being released. So
Yeah, yeah. I would not have known what that is. I would have thought it was a Tim Conway character piece. Not.
Yeah, no, for those who are not aware, Dwarf Romantic is a video game, but it is very board game-esque in that you are laying hexagonal tiles onto a board that have different terrain types on them and trying to match them up to the terrain types of the tiles around them. And you literally just lay out all the tiles and then get your high score. So it's very board game-like, which I think is why a lot of people that like board games have also latched onto this video game. And I'm also going to drop the name of that game in the chat because it's spelled funny. And so in case anyone is interested, you'll know what I'm talking about if you want to look it up. Okay. I think I got it. No, I didn't. I got it wrong. Hold on.
Jerry is bringing up the fact that Stonemeyer is very good at hyping. Or at least they know they have a good marketing machine and a good method for getting the game out and trying to get reviews and commentary to hit at a time that is advantageous for people trying to pre-order the game or get information about the game. They have, they've got the process down as far as how many to send out in the first wave, and then what reviewers to look at a month later than that, and then more reviews to head out after that, and trying to maintain that level of interest and discussion, because as who was it? Was it Coraloo that said earlier, if reviews for a game come out too early, you can get a peak of interest before the game is available, and then suddenly, there are other things to worry about. If you didn't pre-order it at that moment, and you're waiting until it hits retail, or you're waiting until you can play it at a convention, by then there are 50 other releases that have gathered your attention and distracted you from that particular game. If you don't maintain at least discussion around a game.
And I think that this happens sometimes to Kickstarter games as well. Like, some games get a lot of hype when a Kickstarter campaign is running and everybody gets really excited about it. But then when the game ships, it kind of feels like sometimes the hype has died off at that point and the conversation isn't able to pick back up to the same levels it did during the campaign, which I imagine from the publisher's point of view is fine for the most part because they've already sold the games, so to speak. But I mean, most publishers are looking for an evergreen title, so I imagine they would still prefer for that conversation to continue running. But I've definitely backed games, been excited about a Kickstarter, and then when it got here, it's not that I don't want to play it, I just am not as excited about it, and then I end up putting it on the shelf and kind of forgetting about it.
Yeah.
I think a somewhat recent example of that for me would be Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. I like dinosaur games. I like a lot of the Tiny Epic titles. I still want to play that game, but it's sitting on my shelf because by the time the Kickstarter shipped, and it's not like they delayed or anything, by the time it showed up at my house, my initial excitement had kind of worn off a little bit.
That certainly happens. I think because of that time frame when you haven't been able to play it yet. If you're following the production cycle and reading every single update and refreshing the shipping notifications and stuff like that, then maybe you're still involved. But like I said, there's this gap between when you were very excited in the campaign and then you're basically checking the updates to make sure things are still moving along. And I'll be getting, do I need to check my address? Great, I will do that. But you're not really like anticipating it in quite the same way as you were when the campaign was happening, because often there's something else. You have another game in hand that you can play actively right now, or another one that you're anticipating that is in its campaign right now.
So I want to move the conversation to another point, and I really want chat to contribute to this part of the conversation, but I will say, chat, I would like you to be thoughtful about your comments. I want to hear from you all and from you, Eric, games that got a lot of hype that you heard the buzz, bought, played and were very disappointed by for one reason or another. It doesn't have to be that the game was bad. It might have just been not a good fit for you. But I just want to say, chat, don't trash any games in the comments. But if you want to share games that you ended up disappointed by that had been hyped up, please do so. I want to make sure that we don't fill the chat with, oh my God, this game sucks. Like, we're not doing that. I mean, I think a good example to start us off with that most people would be aware about would be Seafall. There was literally years. Like, so fun fact today, Eric, I did a bunch of research. I looked up the top 20 most anticipated games on Board Game Geek for the years 2011 all the way to 2016. I kind of did 5 years back and then a little bit older. And Seafall was on the most anticipated list for 3 years in a row.
It was.
And then, so that's saying something, right? Like, everybody was so excited about this new legacy game, and inevitably a lot of people ended up not enjoying it as much as they thought they would. I have not played it. I am not speaking from personal experience, but I think that seemed to be the universal opinion.
Well, I mean, that was sort of the perfect storm, right? Because it was the first legacy. Seafall came right after Pandemic Legacy, correct? We had Risk Legacy,
Yes.
Pandemic Legacy Season 1, and then Seafall was going to be the next one. And it took longer than expected to produce, so it was on people's radars for a while, and there was the pre-order. I pre-ordered it. I pre-ordered for the special metal coins, so I paid extra for it, and it arrived, and then the first reviews started hitting. And when, especially for a legacy game, you tend to want to have the same group play it for all 10 to 20 sessions or whatever a legacy game ends up being. You want it to be the same group. And so it is a pretty significant time investment. And when those reviews started coming out, and they were not glowing. A number of people in my game group were like, yeah, we kind of don't want to invest in something that we're going to end up not liking. Let's play one of these other 12 games that we've got on the back burner that we'd like to play, or another legacy or campaign game that's on the horizon. And so my copy has yet to be played, and I'm still hanging on to it, holding out hope that maybe at some point my kids might be interested, or it's something that I will. You can't really solo it because it's a competitive game. And I can't give it up because I invested in it, but it's just never, I need other people to buy into it. And for folks who have played it in the last few years, who maybe got it on discount or are not involved in the hype, they've said it's a pretty good game. If you buy into what it's doing, it's a lovely experience. But because it was the next legacy game, and it was very different from Pandemic Legacy, and the way that, some of the twists and turns could be very punishing to the players who were, locked into various strategies, it didn't go over well. And I'm still hanging on, but that's money that I have not seen a return on because we haven't played the game.
Yeah. It's funny because I was definitely excited about Seafall in the years leading up to its release, but I never pre-ordered it. And then, as soon as the reviews started coming out, I was like, "Oof!" Maybe I got lucky there because I didn't end up with a copy of it. But I agree. I've heard from people after the fact who got it cheaper, that there is a good game experience there, and I think there is something to be said for being able to set your own expectations for a game. And there are times when I go into a game thinking it's going to be amazing, and then it's just okay. And just okay feels more disappointing when you were expecting something spectacular. I think a really good example of that for me is the game that I talked about during our last episode, Viscount of the West Kingdom, which is a great game, and a lot of people really love it. But it's not for me. And if I had done a little bit more research and not just heard everybody talking about how much they loved it, I would have probably known that it wasn't for me and I wouldn't have bought it. But at least I supported a friendly local game store, so I'm not mad about it. But I think that's, sometimes I should do a little bit more research and not just listen to the hype. But I love Architects so much that I was just like, yeah, sure, we'll throw this V count in here, and that might have been a mistake on my part.
I don't know. I think have I talked about Mint Cooperative at all here? I think I
No,
must
you
have.
haven't.
Maybe I
I
must
don't
not
think
have.
so.
This was
Oh, maybe.
probably the most recent backing that I did that didn't go over as well as I had hoped. It's not a bad game. It seemed a little flat to me as far as co-op adventures. It's a little light, and I think I'd like just a little bit of a deeper experience. It just didn't land, and I was excited to play it. You know, the next Mint, I like several of the Mint games quite a lot, and so a new Mint game was very exciting. And I hit the table very quickly after it arrived, and both the kids and I were just like, yeah, okay. It just didn't land as well as I had wanted. But I have a little bit of a story that's doesn't end poorly. I'm still holding out hope on this one. But this definitely is a example of hype. It's a game called Marvel United. I'm not sure if you. This one is an example where not a lot of people had played it, but you hear about the idea. This is from Spin Master and Kaman. I know Eric Lang. Yeah, Eric Lang's on the design squad here. It's a simple cooperative game with these adorable little chibi Marvel characters. And, you know, with the MCU being what it is, my kids and I have really enjoyed watching these movies. And so when this showed up, I'm like, yeah, my kids are going to love this. This is going to be great. We can play all the Avengers characters. And then, of course, as a Kaman campaign is wont to do, it starts to add extra stuff. If you back now, you can get a whole bunch of, like, hey, there's Spider-Man. You can play with Spider-Man. It's got Spider-Ham in it. And, oh, I really want John Mulaney to be one of my characters. Oh, you want the Guardians of the Galaxy? Sure. And then the next thing you know, and then, oh, we'll throw in Black Panther for free if you pay an extra $25. And then
Wait,
there's
throw it in for free if you pay more money?
It was, I think if you did, it was some upgrade. It was one upgrade that gave you two upgrades. And then there's like Thanos, and then because I backed the Kickstarter, there's all these extra figurines. And so now I got this. And I don't remember how much I paid for all of this, but it's a lot of stuff.
That's overwhelming.
And it shipped in 2 waves. So I got the base game some time ago, near the end of last year. And I said, oh, boys, you're going to love this. We're going to play Marvel United. You can play with it. Which of these? Do you want to be Captain America? You want to be Black Widow? Let's go. We're going at it. This is going to be great. You guys are going to love this. And it didn't land very well with them.
Oh, no.
Like, they did fine. They enjoyed it. But then they're like, nah, I don't know if we need to play that again.
And you've got all these other boxes coming.
And so you notice many of those are still wrapped. I haven't gotten them to the table yet. I hear like the other guys at the Dice Tower have played all of the combinations. I got to get them to the table to try it again. I think they will like it. It's a lovely game. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm glad I've got all of this stuff because of the possibilities. But they have not bought in yet. So now I've got a big stack of potential.
There you go. I like it. And so I'm going to go back through the chat. We've had a lot of people dropping a lot of games into the chat. Rachel said Scythe. Arnar said Wingspan. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Jeremiah laughingly said a game that starts with a CIT and ends in a Dells, but I'm not going to say it out loud.
Sorry, did my mic cut out on that?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Something. Coralu said, everybody loves Spirit Island, and I usually love co-op games, but for some reason really hated it. Jojo said, like me, also got Tiny Epic Dinos during lockdown and haven't played that one yet. Rachel says, I was excited for Discover Lands Unknown. Good thing I didn't rush out to buy it. That was also a similar situation for me. I was incredibly excited about the unique game. I don't remember what it was called. It's the mechanism where every game is different. But it seems like Discover Lands Unknown didn't meet the hype that most people were expecting there. Hawk Skull says, I really did not like Great Western Trail, which a lot of people still like, I think, to this day. And that's what's interesting is if you look at marketing or consumerism in anything, most people will say that the recommendations they trust the most come from the people that they know, not from a company or not from strangers. If you get something recommended to you by your friends or acquaintances, it's more likely to work, so to speak, to get you to buy a thing or to get you to buy a thing that you're going to like. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And yeah, I think we in the board game community do tend to latch on to certain things. Jeremiah says, I wonder if the new Stardew Valley board game will end up in this place. I've heard mostly positive reactions about Stardew Valley so far, I think.
Yeah, it might be one of those situations, though, that there are a lot of fans of the video game that get it and aren't as much of a board gamer. And so it may end up like, I love the video game. This game, I'd rather play the video game. And so it'll end up on the secondary market.
I do think that one won't have as much staying power as many other board games. Jeffrey says Ghostbusters by Cryptozoic is his pick.
Oh, yeah, that didn't land quite as much. I liked it.
Oh, no, I'm thinking of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There was one game I only played once, and I think it was TMNT, where you could like help the people who were on your left and right with your dice or whatever. I think that was TMNT. But I feel like I didn't hear enough about that after the fact. I don't know. Gator Dave says my biggest falling flat game was Twa. I can't believe I actually pronounced that kind of okay. Peter says Exploding Kittens, great for fans of the comic, but as a gamer, meh. And I will admit, I backed Exploding Kittens as well back in the day. I did, I liked the comic too, and the box that meowed at you or whatever was cute, but I very quickly stopped playing that game. Hornist says Tapestry. Oh no, the chat just scrolled to the bottom. Oh God, I lost my place. I don't know where I was. But yeah, I think I got, sorry, if anybody commented and I missed your comment, I apologize. Sitharath says, my wife and I were fans of Pandemic and were really excited for Legacy Season 1. We were both greatly disappointed by it. In the end, it just wasn't for us. I mean, that's legit too. I think, especially for people who do not typically play games over and over and over again in short succession, sometimes the Legacy games can get a little bit tedious because you either play them all super quick and kind of burn yourself out on it, or you play them over time and you kind of like miss some of the rules or forget some of the new rules, and it's a little bit more difficult to get through the experience accurately. I will say, hold on, I think I can actually say this definitively. So I played Pandemic Legacy Season 1 at the end of the year that it came out, 2015, 2016, whatever year that was.
Sounds about right, yeah.
I then played Pandemic Legacy Season 2 fairly soon after it came out. But since I played Pandemic Legacy Season 1, I have not played a single regular game of Pandemic. And I used to play Pandemic somewhat regularly. But having played Legacy Season 1 and 2, I have no appetite for regular Pandemic anymore. I just played a lot of Pandemic. I'm not a person who plays a game 100 times. I do want to play Season 0, though, I'll admit.
I've had Season 0 since it came out. I pre-ordered it from an FLGS, and it has not hit the table yet. Because it was right around the time we moved, for one thing. But I have to... The family burned out on Season 2. Both my son and wife sort of went, no, I'm not. It doesn't feel enough like Pandemic. And then we got to the point where we couldn't remember what the new rules were. We're like in April or something. And we have to basically reread all the rules and figure out what the changes were and what all the new mechanisms were. And that's hard. I may end up soloing Season 2. And I'm going to really have to work to get them to buy into Season 0. Like, Legacy games in general are difficult for me to play right now.
I mean, I think they're difficult for everybody to play now.
Well, yes. But just getting my family to buy into any sort of campaign is tricky.
Mr. Fig says, I tend to regret campaign-style Kickstarter games. Seventh Continent has been haunting me for a while. That's another thing. It's not even always about being disappointed by a game. It's buying a game because of the hype and just not having the opportunity to play it, really not being able to dig into a thing. That happens to a lot of us, I think, especially with the longer campaign style games or the legacy games.
Or the ones that have tons of options, like this stack of Marvel. The potential is there that you'd like think of all of the exploration we're going to get to do with all of these options and villains and heroes and or campaigns like Seventh Continent. There's all this exploration, all of it, like an entire island to explore, and if you don't do it, then you have that disappointment of all of that potential you're missing out on. I could be playing all of this stuff, and it sort of it rankles a little bit.
Yep, and we as board gamers, I think a lot of us deal with FOMO, whether it's missing out on a game that we don't own or seeing a game sitting on our shelf that we haven't been able to play yet, and it does make us a little bit sad. All right, Eric, we are 5 minutes past the hour already. I know I've been talking up a storm this evening, but I've really enjoyed all of the contributions that we've been getting from the chat. Chat, if you have any questions for Eric or I, either hype related or not, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We will hang out for a couple more minutes, and then we will bid you adieu. But before we do, please make sure to click the thumbs up button at the bottom of the video if you have enjoyed the show tonight. While we are waiting for any questions to roll in, I noticed we have 4 thumbs down, so I think that's probably based on the Oreo mishap. I'm guessing that's the reason.
That's probably that's the comment.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat was offering to buy my stack of Marvel. I am going to keep it for now. I do think the kids will enjoy it in the future, and it seems too early to let it go. But thank you. Let's see. Coralu suggested a Kickstarter option that includes people to play the game with you. So,
you know what? There are Kickstarters. I have seen Kickstarters that had like a really expensive pledge level where you can go play the game with like the design team, or they'll come to you. I think like they're usually these like ridiculously expensive pledge levels that nobody would actually do. But I have seen that as an option before. So if you are incredibly wealthy, I suppose that's an option.
That is one way to do it. The last hyped movie or show that fell flat for you?
Ooh.
Oh, I'm sure there have to be some. American Gods was one that I was very excited about, and it just did not... Well, I think the first episode was not something that we were willing to continue with.
Yeah, I think I maybe made it to episode 2 of American Gods, and because I'd been excited about it too, and it just didn't quite do what I wanted it to.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'm gonna have to Google this. There was a sci-fi series a few years ago. It was by Ronald D. Moore, the same writer who did parts of DS9 and all of Battlestar Galactica.
Right. Isn't he now the showrunner on Outlander?
Oh, I don't know. I've never seen Outlander.
Yeah, I think he runs Outlander now.
I'm gonna have to look this up because I don't remember the name of it. It was set in like Antarctica, and there was a virus going around like a science station or whatever. And if somebody in the chat remembers that, maybe they'll be able to put it on there. But I imagine it's going to be somewhat difficult for me to find. Ooh, actually, nope, I found it already. It came out in 2014, 2015, called Helix, and yeah, it was bad. And I stuck with it way longer than I should have, and it was not a good show. But I love Ronald D. Moore's writing, so I was like, clearly this is going to get good at some point, and it did not get good.
Yeah, and a few people popping up in the chat saying Helix. I often find that I will start recording a series because it is hyped and interesting, and we'll start. Like, if we don't jump into it right away, we're not in the mood to start that pilot episode, then they start stacking up in the DVR. And eventually, I've got all 8 or 10 or 12 episodes of whatever run it is just sitting there. And then we look at it and go, well, are we really... By then, people have either continued to talk about it or not talked about it. Do we really want to delve into this entire season? Maybe we don't. And not having even checked to see if we're going to enjoy it, just, well, we need to clear some space. Just let it go. And it doesn't hurt because you aren't invested in it at that point anymore. And you can just let it. I've given up on a couple of TV shows that way. When we have an entire season saved up and we haven't actually started watching it, it's sort of the sign that, like, well, maybe we don't care about this show anymore. And so season 4 just goes away and we don't record anymore.
I will say I am greatly enjoying, right now I am rewatching all of ER, and it is just as good. Actually, it's better than I remember. Admittedly, it started when I was in middle school, so I don't think I was able to fully appreciate some of the storylines, but I'm in season 8 now. I'm in like the middle of season 8, and season 8 is drama nonstop. It's so much stuff going on, but man, oh man, if you liked ER back in the day, or if you haven't watched ER, it's on Hulu. It really holds up well. It really does.
ER is my wife really loved ER, and we were watching it together in our early days of marriage. But I also was on the morning shift at the radio station, and so I would have to wake up at 4 a.m. And so
yeah, no.
I pretty much just fell asleep to ER. I slept through the good, like, last third of that series. So I really don't know what happened in that show.
I watched it middle school, part of high school, stopped for a while because I was busy. Then in college, I picked it back up when they added John Stamos to the cast because John Stamos.
Of course.
So there's a big gap in the middle that I think I'm in the midst of already, where I haven't seen all of the episodes, and so it's been pretty exciting. But yeah, I got to stay up late in middle school to watch ER on Thursday nights on NBC. It was at 9 p.m. and that was the only night I was allowed to stay up that late, I think, was ER night. So that was fun.
Let's say one more question that brings us back to our hype discussion. Do you find greater hype with Kickstarters or retail releases?
Honestly, I would say it varies. I would say if you had to group them, Kickstarters would be my pick for what I think has more hype generally. But there have been some retail releases that had just as much, if not more, hype. I would say Wingspan would be a good example of that. There was no Kickstarter around Wingspan, but the hype for Wingspan, because of the scarcity of the game, lasted for literally months, like much longer than most.
Yeah, I would find, I think I'm with you there. The hype of a Kickstarter is a different sort. It's this anticipatory, there's the FOMO in that this version of the game is not going to be available in the future, so I need to make the decision now. I only have until the campaign is over to jump in, and that's a little different. But the one that usually gets me is when I hear about a game that is out, and then I want to find it, and if it's not easy to grab right away, it's one thing if I can just go, yeah, all right, click buy. But if it's like, oh, that's not available. Oh, the first print run sold out. Well, maybe somebody has it. Maybe somebody's selling it. Maybe, it becomes a quest to get it. Then I become far more invested in making it happen. Cantaloupe is one that happened with. And I was checking the local game stores and said, do you have it? No, we're sold out. And it's like, oh, well, I got to find it somewhere. And it wasn't a long search, but it was enough that I was like, I gotta get it. And then when I finally had it on the way, it's like, yeah, I can't wait. Fortunately, that one worked out because I love that game. That is a lot of fun.
Awesome. I'm still looking forward to playing it. I haven't busted it out yet, but I'm going to soon. So I will definitely share my thoughts here with you and the chat once I do. But yeah, we should probably wrap things up. Chat, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you for helping Eric win at Letter Jam, and thank you for all of your contributions to our conversation. As always, this is one of my favorite things, is hanging out with you, Eric, and hanging out with the chat.
I love it. I love doing it. I'm delighted every time we get to hang out and see the regulars show up and the new folks as well. Thank you for tuning in and having fun with us. And those of you who watch not live, thank you for watching and virtually playing along with us. It's great.
Absolutely. So we will be back in 2 weeks on April 28th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and I hope that you all can join us again for that show. But until then, I'm Crystal Dax.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been watching Dice Tower Tonight.
Thank you for watching. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. Crystal and I will see you in 2 weeks for another installment when I will be fully vaccinated. Our show is supported by viewers like you. Thank you. Dice Tower Tonight is produced by Crystal and me with assistance from Tom Vassell, Mike DeLisio, Roy Candidate, Chris Yee, and Rob Searing. Mr. DiCaprio's simple but lucrative contracts provided by Pay Leo. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by GameNerds.com. Give us your feedback on the Dice Tower Guild at Board Game Geek on Facebook or Twitter, or by emailing us at crystal@dicetower.com or eric@dicetower.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network. Find something new at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all of us at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Have a good week.